Hi everybody. Today in this video I'm going to be making a hook thing for, I'm using it for hats, but you could use it for coats and stuff, out of just 2x4s and one dowel that I had lying around. You can see in the video right now I'm cutting up, measuring and cutting up the pieces for both the backing, and then I'm going to be making the hooks themselves out of 2x4. So right now, I'm just measuring them out, cutting them on the bandsaw. Probably could have streamlined this. I learned a little bit from building this. This cutting technique was pretty good. It's just squaring them all up, making sure they're all the same length. You can see there's a little clamp there with a stopper piece of wood, so they're all the same length from the blade. So yeah. So now I'm just measuring out the dowel and cutting those into little pieces. This is what's going to secure the hooks to the actual backboard. I tried to use a knife, but I ended up just putting them into a drill chuck and putting them on a file. And it gives a really nice beveled edge kind of thing, like a little fillet. But I actually didn't even end up using these because they were too short. I didn't know how thick the backing was going to be in the end, so I ended up just scrapping those. But it's a good technique. Just thought I'd include it in the video right now. I'm just drawing out the rough shape of the hooks. For this design, I really wanted like a notchy, like battered kind of like design. So I really didn't care that much about how clean it was. I ended up, actually I do like a really cool technique to get a texture on the back of it. But right now I'm just cutting out the hooks. This is pretty much what the hooks look like. You probably saw it in the video description. So this is just like the rough cut on the bandsaw. Just kind of get them into shape. And then this is, I'm just drawing, I probably should have drilled the holes before I actually cut them into little hook shapes, but hindsight's 2020. That was really kind of hard to cut like the hole for the dowel in the back of them, now that they are actually hooks. So I had to finagle some kind of ridiculous means to make it doable. But now I'm just kind of fitting them in. I don't have a belt sander like desk or workbench like tabletop kind of thing, so I just have this belt sander that I just flipped upside down and like rested it. Pretty dangerous, but we do what we can. So yep, just rounding up, cleaning up all of the hooks. It took some time, so I only included a couple of them to not waste your time. It's the same process over and over 5 times. And then I got a rat tail file, and I started like getting into the little hook area because it was really hard on the sander. If I had like a 1-inch belt sander, it would have been probably a lot easier, but I don't have one, so I had to do this for like an hour, which kind of sucked. But then I just take a sanding sponge, and I was just sanding them up. A lot easier to do it on the inside of the hook than having sanding paper, but it ended up turning out pretty good. Now I'm cutting the 2x4, like the backing for it, to get it thinner, but I took too big a rip the first time, so I had to stop the table saw and then drop the blade. But it ended up turning pretty good. I really like doing this with 2x4s because they're honestly like really thick, and then you can end up getting like a 1x4 kind of deal. And it's a squared off plank, which is nice, as opposed to buying it at like Home Depot or Lowe's, like already rounded or whatever. But I digress. I'm using a Stanley, I think it's a number 5 planer, to get just the top smooth off, and then I take a little like cheap planer, hand plane, and I round the corners on the front off. And I'm glad I was sharp, because like that end grain would have been really hard, but it wasn't really that much of a problem for it. Now I'm kind of marking where the hooks are actually going to go in, so I used a caliper for that and just etched a line in it. And then I'm drilling out the the backing. I didn't pre-drill anything because it was going to be covered anyway, so I didn't care about, the particulars with it. But this is the cool technique I mentioned earlier. I basically took the hammer that I actually made in the first video and the ball peen end of it, and I basically just kept hitting the front face of it, and it gives it a really nice notched look. I got the idea from like some HGTV, like there was like a log cabin, like the DIY log cabin episode, where they had this giant stone fireplace with a really thick wooden beam mantle, and the guy basically took a chisel instead of using a ball peen hammer and took little tiny like divots out of it, and it gives it a really, really cool texture, especially with the stain on it, which was really, really nice. But this is like a test fit, and you can see the dowels aren't all the way through, which I end up solving in the future next couple minutes. But yeah, it was coming out really good. I didn't expect it to come out this good at this point in the build. I thought it would only come together at the very end once I stained it, but and the hooks kind of look a little weird, I thought, in the beginning, but I really like how they turned out. So this is my solution to the dowels. I basically just put it in from the back, which is what I should have started with, but again, hindsight's 20/20, and then I just sawed it off and get a nice slow pan across. Really, really cool. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out, and it's just a 2x4 too, which is what I really like. It's just kind of like a challenge to build something out of just like cheap wood. But yeah, now I'm just sanding it off because the ball peen hammer, it's a soft wood, so like it kind of splintered a little bit in some areas, so I was just kind of very, very quickly going over. I think I was using like 220 grit. Then I glue them in, glue the dowels in, the new ones that I cut, which I didn't actually do that fillet thing on the or fillet thing, however you call it, on the file with the drill. But it really ended up being fine. So just glued those up, let those sit. I think I put some sawdust in it to pick up the extra glue, but I don't think I filmed it. Here's another pan of it all glued up, ready for stain. I end up using because it's pine, I'm pretty sure, or fir or something like that. I used a pre-stain so it wouldn't turn out splotchy. So I just kind of rub that in with a paper towel. And then I'm using, it's both Minwax is the brand, but I used I think it was Mission Oak stain, and it's a stain and poly in one step thing. And I've never used it before, but I really liked how it turned out. It did drip a little bit because I think I put it on a little too thick. I probably should have gotten a smaller brush. This brush is meant for a desk I built out of 2x4s actually, but I haven't stained it yet, so this is like a first go, see how good it was. But that was one coat, and then I finished it with 3 coats. I didn't film it because it's very boring to just stain, but in between coats I went over it with quadruple zero steel wool to take out some of the air bubbles. But you can see it's above my bed. Pretty cool. Really like this project. So yeah, thanks for watching.